So in old Japan, ghost stories were a way of dealing with the heat and humidity that the summers bring here. Ghost stories would help bring about a cold sweat and cold fear. And in that way, it was a natural form of air conditioning. So I think it's a good tradition to revive, considering global warming and the state of the economy. Now, when it comes to ghost stories, I would say there are two types. There's the traditional type, that has a beginning, a middle, an end, usually has some purpose behind it, to teach a lesson, to make one afraid. The stories usually revolve sometimes around honor or lost loves, revenge, or a ghost seeking something in this world. Those are your traditional ghost stories that have been handed down throughout the ages. Then there's the other type of ghost story, which there is no real story. It's the true ghost story. It's those stories that people relate, that when something strange and unexplainable either happened to them or someone they know, these are the stories that can truly leave one feeling uneasy. There is no rhyme or reason to these stories, because it's unexplainable sometimes why these things happen. So I thought I would tell such a story, this time not based in Japan, but a story my uncle told me of something that happened to him many, many years ago. My uncle and a friend, they were going backpacking in the Rocky Mountains. Where they were going was not a frequented place. It was way out in the middle of nowhere. They were the only people they saw all that day where they were hiking. That night, when they camped out, they enjoyed some drinks, and they had brought along their shotguns. And they were having a bit of fun with the granddaddy longlegs. These are long-legged spiders. These granddaddy longlegs infested the area, and they were having a bit of spotlight shooting with them. They were young and drunk, and more than a little bit redneckish. Anyway, they were shooting away at these granddaddy longlegs. When in the middle of the night, suddenly, out of nowhere, they hear a flute playing. It just started out from nowhere, and they immediately were frightened. As my uncle recalled, the playing of the flute, it wasn't a happy, cheerful tune or some classical Mozart tune. He just said it was a very eerie music they had never heard before. And being out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the wilderness, and hearing this eerie flute playing made their blood run cold. And because they had quite a bit to drink and were frightened, they began first shouting and then shooting in every direction. The flute continued to play, undisturbed or unperturbed by their shouting and shooting. Eventually the flute, by its own accord, just simply died out. But my uncle and his friend got no sleep that night. When the morning finally came, they went out searching all around in their area, and they found nothing. No person, no evidence that someone had had a campsite anywhere in the area. As far as they could tell, there was no evidence that anyone else but them had been in that area. So that is an example of a true ghost story, if you want to call that. I hope it was a ghost story, and that years from now someone doesn't stumble across the bones of a dead flute player riddled with buckshot.